Well guys, you know what? This is my last attempt because I had already too many. So, welcome to my review of the LG K10. I think it's quite safe to say that this is supposed to be the successor of last year's LG Magna. Even though it has grown in terms of display size by 0.3 inches, it still has to be the one main competitor to Motorola's Moto G. But if it can compete with it, or maybe even surpass it, we'll find out in my full review. So let's just start off with the design and build quality. Size comparison with the Samsung Galaxy S7 first. As we can see, it is noticeably wider, also noticeably taller and a little bit thicker. But keep in mind that this is a budget phone and it actually makes quite a nice job for that, because yes, the bezels maybe aren't the smallest ones, but actually not that bad, because the device feels very compact in hand, because we have everywhere amazingly nice made curves, because we have curved glass on the front, we have a curved back, we have curved sides, so curves everywhere. There is not a single edge on this device, and you will really feel this because it feels super rounded, smooth, feels really absolutely amazingly nice in the hand. And I really can't show this on video, but it is a really enjoyable experience to hold this in your hand. Other than that, what do we have? Let's check that quick. We have the buttons here. We know that from LG, even though they seem to be going away from that. It is even textured, as you can see here, the power button, same as for the volume rockers, really feels nice. Not my favorite place, but still okay. Flash camera. On the top we have a microphone. On the left side there is absolutely nothing but the chrome border all around the device. On the bottom we can see the headphone jack, another microphone, micro USB, and on the right side there's also nothing but maybe this hole to open the back, and we can see the speaker. Let's actually open this back just so you can see what's underneath. We still have an SD card tray, which is really nice. As you can see here on this side, the battery is still removable, and the back itself, as you can maybe see, is thin plastic. Maybe flimsy, but it doesn't actually feel flimsy at all, because once you put it on, and this is something that I was really surprised, it feels very substantial. There is not any flexing or anything. It doesn't creak. It feels super solid, and they did a really great job, not just with that, because also the back material, the texturized one, feels really amazing, because as you can hear, it is hard plastic, but once you actually hold it, it feels almost smooth to the touch and very soft. And it is overall very grippy, and it just makes this device, once again, feel absolutely great in the hand. And I can't really stretch this anymore. This device feels like it's fighting way above its weight class. Absolutely nice job done. So kudos to that. One of the best feeling LG devices that I've ever actually seen. Kudos once again. Now, about the display. I'm not that happy with that one, because 720p with 5.3 inches, which usually isn't bad, and the resolution definitely isn't. If you use it in apps and all that, of course, it's still more than fine. You know, zoomed out browser view, then you will notice some difference, but it's absolutely fine. The white point as well, no complaints here at all. The white is really nicely done. It's mostly bright enough, maybe not the brightest panel still. The black's actually surprisingly good, because quite deep, no light bleed, and okay contrast ratio, because that is my main complaint. Colors seem a little bit more washed out than I would want it to be. I would just wish for a little bit more saturation. This is not because I'm spoiled of the very saturated display of the Galaxy S7, but in general things look a little bit flat. This is something you will have to get used to. Other than that, the viewing angles are okay, maybe not the very best job, but I still think they could have done a little bit of a better job in terms of the display. I would have wished for a little bit more saturation, and one thing that I actually have to show off in the settings, which is a nice idea but definitely not handled well. Because if you go into Vision, you actually have an option to customize the screen, but all you can do is change the contrast and the hue. Two things that absolutely don't make any sense, because the hue, why would you change here the colors? This doesn't make any sense. The contrast ratio would make sense, but since this device doesn't have a good contrast ratio, it doesn't really help along with that either. So once again, this is my one main gripe for our overall great display. It would have been nice, and if you can get past a little bit more of a pale, dull look, it's still okay enough. Now let's check the sound here and start off. Yeah, I think it's obvious. The speaker is on the back, and that's maybe not the best idea, but is okay, because I didn't really block it in either position, not even in gaming, so it was okay. Like I said, LG actually kind of knows how to not screw up a back-facing speaker. It's still totally fine. Maximum volume is good enough. Sometimes I would have liked for a little bit more reserves. The sound itself is a little bit flat, a little bit shallow, maybe not super rich, but totally gets the job done for the most usual task, like watching a video. For music, of course, not so much, and for gaming it's okay. So it's definitely not the very best one, but it doesn't fail. It's quite a good average, so no big complaints here. It's okay. Now, let's check the performance. Go into the browser and see that, because the performance of the Snapdragon 410 is still absolutely flawless. I always liked it a lot, and I did praise it quite often in every review, because as you can see, super smooth, snappy. Same goes for if you take a regular browser. Absolutely fine. Renders quite fast. And the scrolling at all times is super smooth. Here, same goes for Phoenix, absolutely smooth, responsive to the touch, everything just done well. Same goes for Palaver, absolutely fine. Maybe you noticed some loading times throughout the whole process here, because 1.5 gigabytes of RAM are okay and definitely do a way better job than 1 gigabyte, but you still notice that apps will get killed quite often, because I'm quite sure if I would actually go back into Chrome, it would have to reload. No, it actually didn't even have to, so it's quite okay. 1.5 gig do already a way better job, and this is the minimum standard that I would like to see on Android devices, because it's still not super great, but it makes a huge difference compared to 1 gigabyte, so all good here. Now, what about the gaming performance? And let's check that. And once again, the 410 makes a solid job. And I still would say, even though maybe numbers won't match, but this one performs way better than any Snapdragon 615 or 616 device. I'm not quite sure what they screwed up there, but the 410 definitely gets the job done way better. As you can see here, even for gaming, it's absolutely fine. Yes, there is a little bit of lag, there are some slowdowns, but the gaming is actually still possible. And for a budget device, you won't really get a better experience on any other device anyway. So I'm totally fine with that. As you can see, smooth enough, absolutely fine. And it's the system performance that is definitely the big highlight here, because overall very smooth, maybe not snappy, because sometimes once the 1.5 gigabytes fill up, you will notice that it is a little bit overburdened. But otherwise, performance absolutely in this price range, spot on. No complaints here at all. The charging time is, I have no idea. I would say something at about 3 hours. I will post the values right here, but I just forgot them. Now let's check what the battery life has to offer. And I'm very pleased to see what I got here as well, because if we check the first value, 4.5 hours over the course of 1 day. This was in mixed use. Here, almost 5 hours over the course of 1 day. Absolutely nice. On Wi-Fi, I got even almost 2 full days, which this is for me 2 days. And 5.5 hours almost of screen time. This was Wi-Fi only, keep that in mind. And another normal use day was 4 hours and 40 over the course of 18 hours. So I guess it's obvious. If you use it on Wi-Fi only, 5 hours of screen time, absolutely no problem. I used the brightness of 60%, so you will just have to need a little bit longer. Actually, it was 70% because the display is a little bit dull from anything below that. But the battery life is fine. I would say solid 4.5 hours in mixed use, even with a little bit of room for 5 hours if you maybe use your device a little bit lighter or with less brightness. So all good here. In terms of software, I think still my video is legit, because I made a review of the LG UI last year with the LG Spirit, and it hasn't really changed a lot. We are now at 5.1.1, where we were last year on 5.0.2. So we are on the latest Lollipop version. Still quite okay, because a budget device won't get Lollipop or Marshmallow for sure, but I still think it does a great job, and you could watch that video if you want all the details. I'm not quite sure what to really call out here, because we have lock screen targets, which I don't have right now because there is no SIM here anymore. The quick settings are still customizable. Yes, the UI still looks as it looks. Maybe not the nicest launcher, but you can use a third-party launcher as well. And you have still the customizable things like the navbar that you can change. You still have the great things that I really like is double tap to wake, and it even works if you, for example, use it here on the status bar. So In terms of capability, this OS still absolutely is flawless. I really like it. Yes, the UI design maybe isn't someone's first choice, but you can get around that. Just use a theme on a third-party launcher and you should be fine. But the capability is there, performance is absolutely there, and it could maybe even get marshmallows, so watch out for that. Now, about the camera qualities. If I check the selfies, I am actually really impressed, because last year's LG Magna already had a nice camera, but this one bumps up everything just a little bit more, because very sharp, good exposure, very natural colors, so really impressive once again. Now if you check the low light capabilities, they are actually surprisingly good as well, because I didn't expect it to pick up that much light in this room, and everything is a little bit grainy, a little bit blurry, but just a little bit, and actually better than I expected it to be, so job well done here as well. If you go outside and see those pictures, I was only a little bit more disappointed in terms of autofocus time, same as for low light, because that one is noticeably slower than, for example, a little bit more higher end mid-range devices or flagships. But if you don't consider that so much, the outcomes of the pictures are actually really good. It looks like there is a little bit of over sharpening going on, because it just seems to be too good to the looks, because very sharp, quite good amount of details, natural colors, good exposure here as well, a little bit overexposed maybe sometimes, but I did not expect the pictures to be that sharp. Like I said, maybe that's a little bit of some processing going on, but I actually like the outcomes a lot. The video qualities are a little bit behind that, because still quite smooth, but you see definitely the exposure transition is a little bit more jumpy, and the autofocus is the most noticeable thing, because it seems very clueless. Sometimes it just doesn't get it all that it should autofocus. If you tap to focus, then it gets the job done and handles it overall. It's quite nice. So to get to the camera, pictures are in this class, in this price range, really good and way better than I expected. Can easily hold up with the Moto G, and the video qualities are still totally fine. So I would say it's time to get to the deal breakers and the deal makers. The one highlight deal maker for me is the design. It just feels so nicely done, even better than the LG G4 did, and it doesn't really feel even any cheaper or so, because it doesn't creak. It feels solid and it feels just nice to the touch with good design. Top kudos to that. The display could maybe be a deal breaker if you want really a saturated high contrast display, because this is not something you will get. It gets the job done, it is sharp enough, viewing angles are stable enough, and everything is good enough, same as for the brightness. But it's just a little bit underwhelming, because I think last year's LG Magna did a little bit of a better job, but it's really mostly the contrast that is lacking. Sound quality of the speaker is quite nice, no complaints here at all, gets the job done. I would say maybe average at best though. After all, the headphone jack quality though is absolutely top, loud enough with good tonal balance, so all good is done here as well. Now the performance is definitely a deal maker in this price range, because this device was absolutely flawless, spot on. It was smooth throughout all the times, maybe not super snappy sometimes if the RAM was filled up, but the overall experience was absolutely there. I didn't really felt hold back from anything. Apps run all well. App loading times of course aren't on a flagship level, but you can't really expect that. But the overall experience was really good. And if you just think of maybe buying a 615 or Snapdragon 616 device, don't. My recommendation would be rather stick with the 410. It is just overall the better performer. Now about the battery life, this is something here where you will notice something as well. This device is very efficient. Standby drain, pretty much no, just not there. It's very efficient here, and the outcome for a considerably small battery of just 2300 milliamps for a 5.3 inch display gets really good results, because absolutely solid 4.5 hours with room for quite much more, and if you are on Wi-Fi, almost an hour, if not more. Yes, then the software, I think it's absolutely solid, gets the job done. It's very capable, offers almost everything that actually the flagships offer as well, so not really any drawbacks here. Totally solid, and you can still check my software review of the Spirit, because it's mostly still absolutely legit. The last thing to talk about would be the camera. Absolutely no deal breaker, and in this class almost even a deal maker, because very sharp, good exposure, everything on a really high, of course, mid-range level. Camera maybe quite not on that level, but still overall good enough. So where does this device stand now? Price at around 170 euros right now. You don't really do anything wrong. I don't really see any real flaw. The two things that I could pick out as maybe being a little bit lower in terms of super or overall quality would be the display, just a little bit dull and a little bit contrasty or lack of contrast, and the speaker that just isn't anything impressive, but still totally fine. The rest though is on an absolutely high mid-range level and can compete with quite a few more expensive phones. So absolutely legit, and it in this price range definitely gets my recommendation. If you now consider to maybe buy the Moto G, this is definitely a personal preference, but I would take this because it just feels so much better. And the overall qualities are on a quite similar level, but believe me, once you hold this in your hand, because I was never so impressed about the Moto G 3rd generation feel in hand, which this one takes the cake, and this is one of the best ever feeling device that I had, not just for a budget, but even for the premium segment. Absolutely top job. I can't really tell anything else because, like I said, high mid-range level, and for the price of around 170 with 1.5 gigabytes, it is still definitely a very good alternative to even the 2 gigabyte Moto G. So I think I've covered it. If you have any questions though or anything to say, leave them down in the comments. If you liked this review, please thumbs up. And if you want to see more reviews like this or more content, subscribe to the channel. Until that, I wish you a nice time. Until next time, bye. And one thing that I wanted to say is integrity for the win. Keep it. I totally messed that up, but I will get it wrong. No, right, the next time. Wait, it was integrity for the win. Peace out. That was it. I still didn't get that right, but I still wish you a nice day. Okay, until next time, bye.